I can honestly say that the Luo-Collaterals are my favorite type of channels. And, it's not by clearly because I'm more scientifically minded, perhaps, in the previous profession. But Luo-Collaterals, after our research, they actually exist. So I take some comfort with the idea that I can put a meter in something that truly exists. But we're going to take a look, as usual, what the classics say, and then finally round out with some of the more fundamental understandings. So, even though Luos are my favorite, unfortunately, not all Luos are created equal. There are 3 different varieties. And that's one of the problems with the Chinese classics. Sometimes they talk about collaterals. You have to kind of use exercise your imagination to try to figure out which one of these 3 possible types of collaterals are they talking about. Okay? So, different parts of the classic refer to Luos differently, and based on what their descriptions, based on the descriptions, we can infer that there are 3 different distinct types. First type is generally translated in the English language as minute Luos, and the character for minute in Chinese is actually grandchild. So compared to the grandparent, they're the little tots. That is the baby. The baby collaterals. And in other parts of the classics, particularly I'm now referring to the cutaneous region, which is one of the chapters that we studied in Module 1. The people who learn from the student playing questions. They describe in this chapter about skin regions another type of Luo, which is called a floating Luo. And this is the type of collateral that is supposed to be superficial and visible on the surface of the skin. Then, in chapter 10 of the spiritual pivot, the title of the chapter is just called Channel Vessel. So it's telling us something about the pathophysiology or the physiology anatomy of the channel system. They talk about yet another type of Luo vessels, but this time these type of vessels have their own pathology associated with them. And these are the ones that we learn in school. Luo channels can have replete symptoms and also the QE symptoms. Those refer to this type of collaterals. Then the final type of collateral is supposed to be something deeper. Even though we tend to think blood vessels to be more superficial, especially the idea of floating Luo, there's apparently something that's very deep because we have certain statements of facts or passed down sayings from previous masters. But the idea is something along the lines that early diseases are located in the channel of the qi, but lasting diseases enter the Luo, enter the blood. And there's also other sayings, especially for the Wang school, the Wenbing school practitioners, which are practitioners primarily interested in epidemic diseases in the southern part of China. They have certain sayings like chronic disease enter the Luo. So again, because the Wenbing is a style of medicine in which diseases are thought to be divided in 4 different layers, the blood level being the deepest, this is where we get the idea that Luos can also be very, very deep, very profound. And so these are 3 different types of Luos. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some of the passages from the classic that gives us some hints about how to deal with these different types of Luos in a clinical setting. Starting with chapter 63, and this is not a complete translation, only just the parts that are pertinent to our discussion about the Luos. In chapter 63, the translation of the title of this chapter I translated as bundled puncture, and it's a rather unusual translation. But the reason why I've done this is because I looked at the very ancient meaning of the character as opposed to the modern meaning of the character. So in this chapter it says that if the evil visits the large pool, so there we know that this chapter is about Luos, left important to right, right important to left, top down, left, right. And this evil can somehow go from the Luo to now mutually offend with channels. So there's some relationship between Luos and channels, that is evil or disease process has free access between the 2. And it can do this bilaterally, left and right. And after it interacts with the channels, it can spread into the 4 extremities, meaning the 4 limbs. The qi has no constant place. That means the qi inside the Luo has no constant place. It does not enter channel points. That means that the qi of the Luo does not enter channels and are not accessible at acupuncture points that we know of. And then they say that we name this bundle puncture, and the Chinese for that is miaozi. Huangdi then says, I'd like to hear about this bundle puncture. Take the left to obtain the right, take the right to obtain the left. How does that work? How does this differ from mutual puncture? Okay, and this is Chinese Juzi. So we see a lot of examples in the classic in which Huangdi asks a question only to be told, you're talking about something else. Okay, this is yet another example of one of these things. And the authors of the NeiJing, or the storytellers, have created this question-answer setup because these are places where oftentimes people lead to misunderstanding. So here's another example of one of these things. Now, just a commentary before we move on. I said I would give you the traditional meanings of the character for meow. This character meow, which is what I translated as bundle, has a couple of possible meanings. It can mean false, like to cheat somebody. Okay. It could mean to offend somebody. You offended somebody's family, somebody's honor. But those characters don't really explain this idea of acupuncture very well. Okay? Perhaps to cheat and do something false, maybe you're not really needing on the correct side, you can need on the other side. That's how the kind of people explain this character, how it's not direct. You know, to cheat and offend somebody is not direct, therefore it conjures up the image of being able to treat the left and the right and the right and the left, which is clearly what the passage is telling us that we can do with Luo channels. But one can just simply look further into the meaning of this character. And this character here is a unit of measurement. And for when you bundle up 10 bunches of hand together, it's called a meow. So now we can think about this differently. I alluded earlier in the previous lecture something about bundle puncture. That is something that appears, this is something that appears in other parts of the classic as well. It appears in chapter 62 on regulating channels. So this could conceivably be something that involves putting a few needles together, wrapping it up, so that you're getting kind of something like a plum blossom needle tip. Now we know plum blossom is something that we use for bleeding. Luo channels, clinically, we tend to associate Luo with bleeding things. So at least we have some anthropological evidence that this bundle approach is something that is not too far-fetched from the idea of Luo and bleeding as a whole. Now here's another problem. Even what they're trying to compare to, mutual puncture is a term that is often, a definition that's often disputed. Because if you were to translate the word 锯刺, the character 锯 is written here, for you, 锯 literally means gigantic. So that would mean using gigantic puncture, or gigantic needle. So that doesn't really make much sense. Some commentators have suggested that this is a transcription error. See how this character here for gigantic looks a lot like this character here for mutual? So a scribe, especially in ancient times the characters written in cursive, a lot of times, depending on how you lift up the brush, a little bit of ink trail could continue on into the next stroke. So this explanation I like because it better explains the idea that one can treat left and right, the mutuality of left and right. Okay? So this is relatively more standardly accepted explanation for what 锯刺 is, which translates mutual puncture. But the idea of calling 妙刺 as a bundle puncture is my own contribution.